Video games are broken. I could say it's just Halo as I'm a Halo channel, but let's be honest guys, this is an industry-wide issue. What inspired this video was two things I need to bring to your attention. And I'm going to be 100% real here, it feels like online games, specifically matchmaking, are artificial now. The people are just along for the ride. The first thing I'm going to bring up is a ranked player on Halo who got placed the highest possible rank by purposely losing and throwing every game. He placed higher than 80% of the population just by losing. Second, and this is also in the news, Call of Duty actually published their skill-based matchmaking data. The system is almost one-to-one Halo system, Apex Legends system, or even the League of Legends system. As I said, industry standard. I also have to say I've been told by developers themselves that major corporations don't care if anyone does a video like this, as it's not enough to ever change anything. The faceless people in charge will continue, and ironically I think in the long run, the more people become aware of this, the more pressure there's going to be put on the big gaming companies, and they're going to have to change the major problems that are plaguing gaming today. It's my goal this video educates, brings awareness, and kind of shows everyone why they have the experience they do online. If you are feeling frustrated with online gaming as a whole, this will explain why this is happening. In the past, I've spoken about major corporations hiring numerous game psychologists to manipulate the user base into extending their playtime. How many bad games will a player have to play before they disengage? How many good games do they need to have to keep them on the hook? These are all questions these psychologists have refined into the current matchmaking system. The problem is now that people are aware of what's happening, a very large group of people now feel as though matchmaking is artificial. So very briefly, before I get into the meat and potatoes, here is a quick rundown of current matchmaking systems. Each game might have some small tweaks here or there, but loosely, this is the experience most people will find nowadays. If you perform well consistently, you will continue to verse better and better players. If you perform badly consistently, you will begin to verse worse and worse players. This sounds fine, right? Here's where it gets diabolical. If you continually play better, you will get worse and worse teammates until you have zero chance of winning. If you still perform well in the very unfair match, you will continually have those same matches. If you still somehow continue to play at that same level, you'll be locked out of playing completely with extended matchmaking times. If you play with friends, the system will multiply your skill levels together, meaning if you've noticed when you play with friends it's rough, this is why. An example very quickly, I got a viewer of mine on Twitch, he loaded into some unranked games with me because I couldn't find any matches. The skill-based matchmaking was so strict, he performed horribly. The kicker here is I couldn't even get into a game without him, and then once we got a game, there was 0% chance of us winning. The social nature of what made gaming fundamentally enjoyable is gone, replaced with hyper-competitiveness all of the time. You guys are the ones who said to me, Remy, I get off work, there's just no relaxing anymore, gaming isn't what I remember. And most of you guys, my core demographic on the channel, are aged 24 to 35, some of you might be younger, some of you might be older, but a lot of you grew up with the Xbox 360 and PS3 era of gaming. Nowadays, it's completely different. To continue on my point, video games nowadays now punish players who improve. There's legitimately average skill players with higher win percentages than the professionals themselves. We then reach the big issue of contention. If everything else wasn't already so convoluted, the new matchmaking system already knows within a standard deviation what the outcome of the game is going to be. You can literally tell nowadays if you're going to win or lose, and if you go to Halo Waypoint, the system very accurately predicts how well you're going to perform. Now here's the problem with this system, the big problem. Each map on Halo has different weapons. Each map on Halo has different vehicles. For example, me, I might be able to drop 50 kills with a sniper rifle, but without one, I'll get maybe 20 to 25. The system does not take this into account and will balance teams thinking you are going to perform the same level as that game I had the sniper rifle. If a player drops 50 kills in a Banshee, and then the next match there is no Banshee, but the system still thinks he can get a Banshee and still thinks he can drop 50 kills. So then it balances the teams that way. What, are you just supposed to never use anything? It is fundamentally flawed in every single way. For Halo skill-based matchmaking specifically, and I think it's for other games as well, kills per minute are a major factor when taking into the account skill level. The best thing I can point out, because you're watching this video and you're seeing scoreboards where it's completely unfair on screen right now, I hope this changes your expectations while gaming to understand that it is truly outside of your control. If you do really well, you're going to get punished with a loss. If you lose X amount of games in a row, you're going to get gifted a free win. It is completely out of your hands. The best thing you can do is just switch your brain off and not take it seriously. With all of that said, here's what the average matchmaking session looks like in 2025. You're a slightly above average player. Each game is sweaty. Each game is the same. Each game has terrible team balancing, forcing you to play the exact same way or you're going to get destroyed. That means you're going to match the exact same sweaty people over and over again. And only when the system feels sorry for you are you going to get an easier game. You can't play with friends or it gets exponentially harder. You can't goof off or you're not meeting the system's expectations of you, meaning your team gets destroyed. The matchmaking system literally thinks you are going to play your optimal efficiency every single game, and any deviation of that equals a loss and a terrible time. I have covered it in the past, but this system is literally designed for people to try as hard as possible. It is in the exact published document that Microsoft themselves published. After a certain amount of games, as I said, psychologically you're about to disengage from the product, so the system will give you a carrot, a free win against people who just destroyed their last lobby. It's important to note that this system tries to encourage a 50% win rate. It's not on purpose by any means, but just by its very design, it's an outcome that seems to happen. Video games aren't supposed to be a second job, but to gaming companies, they need that younger audience, that very low skill rating of player, the silent majority, so they drop money on microtransactions. It's the core reason why it's very hard to change the current gaming landscape. For me personally, I have nothing wrong with the skill-based matchmaking. Each of the original Halo games, they all had skill-based matchmaking and it all worked very well. It's when it begins to be manipulative, I have problems. If you're the best in the world, you should be winning 90% of your games. A chess grand champion only having a 30% win rate, it's just ludicrous when you think about it. This brings me to the latest Halo example. To play ranked on Halo Infinite, you need to play 50 unranked games. This is to stop cheaters from absolutely destroying the playlist, but you need to do 50 unranked games to be able to jump into ranked. One ranked player named Bort made an account and played 1v1 Showdown for his 50 games, a majority of which were boosted with 0 kills. He then went to ranked and did his 5 placement matches, throwing every game. The game placed him Diamond 5, the highest possible placement. Now by 343 Industries and now Halo Studios' very definition, they said unranked games have 0 effect on ranked playlists. The only time the system will grab from other playlists for ranked is when you first play your very few first ranked placement games. So that's what the system did. It saw he won so many of his 1v1 Showdown games, even though over half of them were boosted, and it put him into high diamond lobbies. Again, by 343's very own definition, once the ranked playlist gathers enough information of the player, the very thing placements are used for, it should correct the player's skill level and place them in the appropriate skill bracket. Dropping a 0.15 KD, kill death ratio, does not mean you are equal with those lobbies, but where does the game place the account? Diamond 5. The whole damn matchmaking system is busted. The worst thing about this is I've had numerous developers literally say the opposite of what the data has said for years. I've had people quote the developers saying, "Hey Mint Blitz, you're wrong," and then I see this happening over and over and over again. I've played 20,000 matches of Halo Infinite. I understand the system to the extent of even the people who designed it. The rabbit hole goes even deeper. So to take it a step further, many of you guys say to me, "Remy, why don't you play ranked?" And well, for starters, I got high onyx in every playlist, but why I stopped playing ranked is very simple. Because I play high kill games in social and unranked playlists, when I go to ranked in past seasons, there was instances of me losing 15 to 17 games straight. Because even though playing unranked and getting high kills doesn't affect who you match, it does affect the team balancing in the ranked playlists. For example, let's look at a lobby of 8 players including me. It takes that high skill history and will assume I'm the highest player in the lobby, even if my visual rank doesn't represent that, so it will give me the number 1. It will then take the skill levels of players 2, 3, 4, and 5, the second best to the 5th best players in the lobby, and put them onto the other team. Then it'll give me players 6, 7, and 8 and place them onto my team. Now in practice, when you go to high rank, this means you'll see games of 15 or 1600 Onyx level players versing professionals 2300 and higher. I'll throw some screenshots up on screen so you can see what I mean. I don't really need to say anything more than that. Look at the numbers. How is it balanced at all? It is not. It's gotten so broken now that players have worked out it's in their best interest to just perform well enough to win, but to not overperform, as it'll give better team balancing next game. It's even gotten to the point that when someone knows they're going to win, they start rapidly lowering their KD so they get better team balancing next game. So not only are social playlists not social anymore, but ranked playlists aren't really ranked either. Matchmaking on the whole is a participation trophy where your skill is completely irrelevant unless it's free-for-all. There is no point for someone to say, haha, I beat you, because you're literally just playing into a matchmaking algorithm that's decided before the game starts who's gonna win and who's gonna lose. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, Call of Duty released their own data this week for certain players, and something caught my eye. Yes, the system is more or less identical to Halo and other franchises, but it actually showed proof for the very first time that there are multiple different groups of players, and each one of those groups has a very different experience. They never interact with one another. They all have a very similar KD because they're going up against different skill brackets, and it's pretty much made kill-death ratio mean absolutely nothing, because you could be versing some really beginner level players and have a KD of 1.5, or you could be a competitive ranked player on Call of Duty with a KD of 1.5. There are so many different levels of manipulation to this, it is crazy. Ultimately, the problem with the entire system as a whole is that your most dedicated players are becoming burnt out. They're tired. They want variety in their games. They don't mind trying sometimes, but other times they don't even take it seriously. They want to use different weapons, play different classes, try to do something unique, be funny, not having to do the meta playstyle in any video game just to be able to keep up. It's even worse that if a player does decide to use the meta just to keep up, the system will continually give you worse teammates and worse teammates until you no longer can keep up, forcing a loss. It really is, no matter what you do, you are screwed. It's sad really, because if you grow up with video games now, it is so much worse than it was before. You really missed out if you didn't play the Xbox 360 era of Halo. It is my hope that you guys keep this information in the back of your head, so if you do find yourself frustrated, just know it isn't you. It's out of your hands, and honestly, within a few matches, you're probably gonna get given a free win or a good lobby. That's how I handle it anyway. Personally, I found myself getting exhausted during the Halo 5 era when I was much younger because it was so competitive all of the time. I don't feel like games should always be like that. So with all of that said, thank you for watching. I do these videos every 6 months or when new information comes out because it is so important. The better I can bring awareness, the happier you guys are going to be while playing, and that's all that matters to me. If this was informative, leave the video a like as always. Back with a very cool Halo video in a few days, and I'll see you guys later.